Hi guys, welcome back to the Purple Stethoscope. This is a different episode this week, a special live recorded episode. There will be a great conversation with count on 1, 2, 3, 4 guests. I'm not going to say any more. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Purple Stethoscope. I am your host, Devin Nixon, family nurse practitioner. None of the information in this podcast is sufficient nor intended to diagnose your personal medical issue, but there's a lot to learn, so let's start the show.
Tell me what's the connection in here.
It's on?
Is it good?
It's good?
Okay.
Hey, so I am Devin, aka DtheNP, and we're doing something special this week with a podcast. We're actually going to record live. And this week, we have 3 university students with us. I'll let them introduce themselves. But it's almost back to school time. So let me I'll let you all introduce yourselves, including Dr. Ledbetter, and you can just, next. Okay.
So I am Dr. Cislina Grosser Ledbetter, and I'm an Executive Director of Counseling, Health, and Wellness. Hey, folks.
I'm Taylor Stafford. I'm 25. I'll be studying English literature this fall, and I'll be getting in the Woodring Master's in Teaching program after I finish my prerequisites.
I'm Mariah. I'm 21. I'm going back to school after taking a break and finishing up my associate's degree.
My name is Michelle Robinson. I'm 22 years old, and this fall I'll be beginning my second year of nursing school.
That is incredible. I just want to remind you guys that we are doing the audio as well for the podcast taping, so make sure that you project your voices. But really, this is all about hearing from you. I don't know who's on, I don't know who's watching, and I don't know who's going to listen to the podcast, but it could be parents, it could be other students, it could be people who are in situations like yours and really, really struggling and would love to hear that they're not alone and kind of what you all are going through. Can we start by just talking about what were your expectations coming into college?
I could go first. Like I said, I have my undergrad degree, I got my bachelor's and my associates. But during that time, I got dropped off in Arizona freshman year. I didn't really have too many expectations. I just was just going to see what happens. I don't know. I can't say that I had any expectations. And I was an athlete, so I expected basketball to go well. I'll say that. I could say that. But, yeah, I didn't really have too many expectations.
I'll say that, when I was finishing high school, leaving Oak Harbor, I knew I was going to be moving here to Bellingham, and I thought it was going to be kind of like a transformative experience for me. Like, I thought that just almost overnight I was going to become like this entirely different person. Like, the confidence would be there, I would have a pretty strong sense of myself, and just like this person that I always wanted to be, I thought that just immediately I would become that person. I was going to be sure of my place in the world and even just at that school, and yeah, I just thought it was going to be great.
And you're a nursing student.
And I'm a nursing student, yeah.
A whole different beast. How about you, Mariah?
I didn't really have any expectations except for I felt expected to go to college. Coming from Bellingham, from even like middle school age, they're taking you on tours to different campuses and showing you like different things, and so it was just really just kind of like, oh, I'm supposed to do that. That's the next step.
Wow. What surprised you guys when you did get to college and you enrolled in your classes and started going? What was surprising to you about that actual experience versus your expectations?
Something that was surprising was just everyone's there doing the same thing, whether playing a sport or just going to school. So I thought you can't really separate yourself. Everyone's doing the same thing, so you have to work 10 times as hard as the next person, whether it be an athlete or just a student, because they're there for a reason. They worked hard just like you worked hard. So, yeah, that was surprising. But I think I handled everything else pretty well, I would say, but yeah, just that dynamic of everyone's here doing the same thing. We're all in the same space, and we do the same thing every day. I don't know.
And you moved, right?
Yeah,
You went significantly far from your growing up home.
Yeah.
So was there any surprises there?
No, so I'm originally from Chicago, moved to Minnesota. Then I went to junior college in Arizona. So I was ready. I was ready to get out, and I strive on being independent, even at 18. But it did hit me when my dad dropped me off at the dorm. I was like, where you going? I want to come with you. He's like, nope, you got to stay here. So my dad did a good job of instilling independence in me. And, yeah, I kind of just was like, all right, put my big boy shoes on and just went along with the process. It was beautiful, though.
Did either of you, like all your friends went away and you didn't go away?
Yeah,
Can you
me.
speak to that?
Yes.
I don't know, I feel like that kind of made me feel a little more lost, because in, like, high school when people are putting their universities up on paper and the board and stuff, and you see everybody's going to Which Way, Brown, Princeton, all those places, and I'm just like, I'm going to walk, I'm staying here. So I just kind of felt like, I don't know, it felt like I was, like, a lower tier than my peers, just because I was just going to community college and I was staying home. But I wanted to stay home. I like staying close to family.
I can really relate to that. I think, you know, I was excited to be somewhat away from home, but at the same time, I knew I wasn't ready to go to a different state or even to be more than like an hour or two away from home, just because security is really important for me, like when I'm learning. Like for me to be in a totally different environment with totally different people without like some familiarity to cling to, I feel like I would have really struggled. As a freshman especially. So, yeah.
Dr. Ledbetter, do you see much of a difference between the students coming through that are in their, you know, in the town they grew up in versus students that come from far away?
I think it so depends on what the student needs. And so some students are ready to get up and get out and, you know, spread their wings and move far away from home. And then there are others that are just going to thrive a lot more if they stay closer to home, sort of like you, Michelle. And so it's an individual thing. It really kind of depends on what you've been prepared for. So Taylor, you were ready to go. You knew, you were ready to spread your wings. And so there is no one size fits all.
Right.
There is no one size fits all. And I think the key is for both parents and for kids to know your student. So that you know whether you're pushing a student that needs to stay close or you're holding back a student that needs to spread their wings. And so I think I have a question, which is when you think about the community that you landed in, was that community ready for you? And
that's a great question.
What did that look like for you? What did ready mean? When you landed on campus, how did the community receive you?
I feel like very quickly certain attributes about myself that I prided myself with, or I felt proud of, just turned into insecurities. You know, from even like my hair, the color of my skin, the way I, in the right setting, have kind of a strong personality. Those things sort of switched, and I feel as though I was treated differently because of those things. And I felt like I needed to change. Like, is it okay for me to be who I am? I questioned that more when I got here. And, you know, earlier I mentioned, like, I wanted to be that more confident individual and to grow. And I feel like I went from being myself to becoming, like, 2 feet high. And I really struggled. And that's when I turned more to my parents. You know, I moved away and it was a choice that I made, and I was happy at first. And then I found myself spending the night at my parents' house instead of staying in my dorm. Like, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel secure. I didn't feel like I was in the right headspace to learn. So I was commuting to and from Bellingham from Oak Harbor because I just felt so different, so alone, so much like the environment on campus was not inviting for me. So
that is so real. And just for the people listening who don't know, this is like over an hour commute.
Yeah.
This is not like, oh, I'm staying at mom's house 20 minutes away and then come. No, this is gas money.
Yeah.
This is second job to be able to make that trip. What do you think that the students or the administrator, like what would have made it more welcoming and more of an environment that you would have thrived in?
I think, I feel like some of it should have come from within myself to reach out and to look for support where I needed it within, amongst my classmates. But then also I feel like I was kind of being avoided by some people in my class, even some simple microaggressions, like no one wanted to sit by me, no one would invite me to be in their study group, no one really, I felt like the elephant in the room, and all it would have taken was like one or two people to just, make me feel, or at least do what they can to make me feel like I belong. Like, come sit by me, come say hi. I'm often told that I look very, standoffish, aggressive, and I don't know how much of that, I don't know how much of that
There's
comes
nothing aggressive about you. If you have ever been told that you look aggressive, that is a microaggression, right? A macroaggression. That is bull. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Mariah, you look like you were identifying with.
They just kind of feel out of place. Yeah, just little things. Like my first class that I took at Wacom kind of showed me, I was like, I don't know if this is like the greatest thing, because I had a professor who was old and he was white and it was his last year, so he really didn't care. I felt like I feel like he just really didn't care. But like during we were talking about like race and something like that, and then like just in the middle of class he like was talking about, we ended up like talking about attraction and things like that, and he like told me, I remember it, 16 years old, first class, first time ever being on a college campus, and he was just like, that like black guys find white girls more attractive, right? And I was like, no, what? And like he put me on the spot, like he was like, you agree with me? So I like did, because I was 16 and I didn't like know whether to like say my mind or not, and I was just like, okay, yeah. So, like, ever since then, I've kind of been like, I don't know if this is for me or not, at least this space.
One person and one ignorant statement and a whole person questioning if college is even for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
My experience was completely different because I was a student athlete. I went to 3 schools during my undergrad, and each school I went to, because I was a student athlete, it conformed to me and my team. So I had brothers, you could say, 10, 11 brothers, because we all went through practice, the hardships together. So if I saw them on campus, I could talk to them and sit with them at lunch, and I knew, of course, it's things that I couldn't share, but if it was like, oh, this homework assignment, did you finish it? Or I had someone to talk to about that, my teammates. Yeah. So it was very different. I just felt like I didn't have to adjust really to any environment, because I knew I was on a basketball team, and we know the stigma that goes behind basketball players, and especially when you're doing well on the team or just your team's doing well, that status is magnified, and you just kind of like a celebrity. So
you came in with community.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And I'm just going to go right there. When you saw young women on the campus, young black women, because my understanding is all of you went to predominantly white institutions, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you saw a young black woman on campus, if you were walking by, did you say hello? Or did you stay with your group?
More or less.
Yeah.
During my undergrad, I was really to myself. Like Michelle spoke about, just trying to figure out who you are. I had that community, but I still would be to myself. But if I was with my boys, I'm probably going to speak, because that's that energy, that extra testosterone that was needed in that moment. But if I was by myself, maybe not, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When I was young in this area, and this totally changed, my husband and I talk about this all the time, we would never walk past another black person without saying hello, without acknowledging them and saying hello, because we knew it was just us out here. So there was it was unheard of. And then when we had children, and we saw how our children, we'd be like, whoa, did you not see her? Did you not see him? And it was different, and I don't know, I still can't figure out, that's not even what this episode is about, but I just wanted to ask because I'm like, did the kids come back around, or is it still that way? Did you too find community with at school, and if you did, what did you find your community to be?
That's a tough one.
That is.
I feel like I mostly kind of started hanging out with the other students who seemed to be kind of like to themselves. They didn't really have like other people in the class like talking to them. I really didn't have support until I went out of my way to find somebody else who seemed like they were lost or they were alone. And it was otherwise, I didn't really, I never really feel like I never felt like I had a large community of people. It was always just like one or two people I could talk to, and we could just confide in each other, and that was about it.
Well, in nursing school, don't get too close to them, because if they don't pass them tests, they're not going to be there the next semester. What about you, Mariah? Have you found community?
I found more of a community, surprisingly, when I stopped going to school. So I know, that's not what you want to hear, but that's just how it was. Like, when I was just working, I felt like I was almost like a little more respected by adults, because I was just working and grinding and kind of just like, I'm out here doing my stuff, trying to support myself. And they're like, oh.
Yeah.
Because
their kids then came back home.
Yeah,
so they're looking at you like, yes, baby, yes. You go, girl. You're doing it. Wow.
So working was kind of like all my, like even my team members at Starbucks, they're so supportive and so nice. Not so much when I was working retail, but like even still, like when I...
She gonna throw her little shade.
I mean, it's funny you say that, because I mean, now that I really think about it, I think my biggest supporters are people that I don't go to school with, like coworkers or friends of friends. They are more invested in, our friendship, or even just doing what they can to help me succeed in the program. Like, hey, maybe we can study together. Maybe we can do some flashcards together. We're not in the same class, but we can test each other on the other person's content.
Yeah.
I feel like I found a lot more support in that sense from people I don't go to school with.
Are they people of color?
Yes, actually. Yeah.
One of the things that we think about, that we talk about a lot, administrators, right, is how can we support students? And I heard you talk a lot about community. And we're often, we're not, as much as we like to think we are, we're not in your community, but we talk a lot about what can we do, how can we support, what do we need to build, how can we insert our will into being able to provide that space. When you think about what you didn't get, and think about the conversations that we have about being able to support you, what are we missing? Do you think we're missing something about being able to serve you? Like, we can't be in the lunchroom and sort of say, hey, you go over there and sit and talk with Michelle. We can't do that. But are we missing something that we can do better?
I could say, I don't know, we spoke briefly when we were having lunch, but just the language. And when we think of an administrator, or we think of someone who's in a position of power, and some of them kind of really stand on that position and the power that comes along with it, and feel like, okay, if this student don't want to talk to me, then fine, because they should want to speak to me. But I feel like just being relatable and just sharing your story also. And like, I wasn't always an administrator. I was once in your shoes. And then I feel like when you connect with a student like that, they'll share that with their friend, they'll share it with their community, right? Those 1 or 2 people, and then it'll build from there.
Yeah.
And from my experience, I feel like administrators try to resolve things and not listen.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that listening part is, or that aspect is paramount to a student's success.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
I think that's right on point.
Yeah.
That is right on point because, you know, I feel like there's this back conversation that we all had at the table eating jalapenos. Thanks
While
to
I was
you.
still in the hospital.
Right, but that's okay. but you know, so part of what I'm hearing you say is that we just need to show up as human.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't see us that way because we don't show up telling our stories about how we were on college campus. You and I are first generation,
Yeah.
right? Are you a first generation college student?
I am.
And that makes a difference. When you are the first
Very
one, you
much
don't have a
so.
roadmap. So nobody tells you that when you're not feeling well for 2 weeks that you might be struggling with depression.
Right.
But more than 60% of students that leave college leave because of non-cognitive reasons or for depression and anxiety.
And that's where I see it.
That's right.
Because I see young people in clinic, and I talk to a lot of young people in clinic, and they're not coming because of their grades.
That's right.
A lot of them aren't even coming, believe it or not, because they don't have the tuition.
That's right.
They are anxious, they're
That's right.
depressed, they feel the weight of the world on their shoulders, they feel like if they're true to themselves, they're going to fail somebody else, mom, dad, or whoever is rooting for them so strongly. And it is...
Yeah, right.
And it's interesting because a lot of times it's certain people that come in. And it is the ones who know how the healthcare system works. And it is the ones who maybe are a little more affluent. But I know for every young person who comes in, there's dozens more who are not coming in. Because people will say, well, why would I make an appointment? I'm not sick, you know? But if you're not feeling like yourself, that's sick for you.
Right.
And so seeing that all the time, and they'll say, they're so sweet, they say, I'm not asking for pills. And I'm like, good, because I wasn't going to give you any. But we talk about mindfulness, and we talk about, you know, safety, and we talk about relationships. One of the things that I notice with this age group, so much codependency happens in relationships, romantic relationships and friend relationships.
Yes.
Because people find their person, and you know, I'm listening to someone who has the world going for them, and they're ready to throw it all away because of a breakup, and they don't know how to operate in the world without their person. And I'm sitting here going, you know, I can't help but revert to mommy in my head. I just want to, no, he just wants one thing.
There'll be others.
You know, there'll be others. Yes, you're so young. But when it comes to holding you down, when you're in the school setting, not outside the school, because I can tell you stories. Look, don't let me be a school administrator.
Right.
I was a teen mother, and so I did Running Start, and I graduated and became a medical transcriptionist, but I took a lot of years off, and I married, and I had kids, and then I went back at 28 to a community college with 18-year-olds, you know, who were, you know, 18. And it was serious. Going back as an older student, it was serious. I wasn't looking for no friends or nothing like that. We got to get this done. These kids are hungry.
Yeah.
You know. But what I still remember from the younger students on campus when I was there, it seemed like that codependency thing played such a role in whether or not they even came to class. Do you guys feel like you have this goal in mind that come hell or high water you're going to get to, or do you feel like there are multiple different factors that will determine whether or not you reach your goal or not?
I think there's definitely a lot of factors that go into it, and as much as I hate to admit it, I feel sometimes like the biggest obstacle that could keep me from reaching my goals is myself. It's myself. Like, you know, as much as we tell ourselves, like, we give ourselves, like, the positive self-talk. We try to zen, self-care, do whatever we can do to keep ourselves in the right headspace. I really struggle to keep myself in the right headspace. And what you were mentioning about codependency, the way I look at it is, like, I find my person who's, like, my security blanket or my teddy bear, and I don't want to let go.
Right.
And, you know, right now that person is my mom. And I'm not saying that, I mean, I love my mom to death, and I do really value our relationship. But I feel like sometimes, like, I question how much I'm doing it for her and how much I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to let your security blanket, your teddy bear down. But, yeah. And then I just really struggle to rein it in sometimes and to keep that focus on what I'm trying to do. So.
I couldn't agree with Michelle. It's yourself stopping you from completing your goals that you have. And the codependency factor, yes, because I love to be in love and I don't trust a lot of people at all. So when I meet my person, I want to give her all my baggage, all my flaws, and hope that she can help me in some way, form, or fashion. And then once I release it, I can move on. But I feel like that's when you find your person and you putting all your baggage onto her or him, they also have baggage. So it's like, where do they run to share it? And but I struggle with a lot of things, mental health issues as well, and not trusting people magnifies it. So it magnifies that codependency. So when you do lose someone you love or your mom or whatever it may be, when you don't depend on them no more, they're not there, now you're really struggling. Because it's like, now I really got to zen my feelings or whatever and try to positive self-talk and everything, but it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle.
All right, you've been quiet.
Well,
Let's hear it.
well, no, I just wanted to talk about the codependency because when I first moved out of my parents' house, I'm still in the same town, but I moved out when I was 18. And I definitely would cling on to friends. And whenever, like, they excelled in something or, like, they would move away, it kind of felt like a hurt, like, why'd you leave me kind of thing. So during, like, this gap year, I really wanted to, like, focus on me and, like, myself. So, like, I've worked through a whole bunch of that, which I really appreciate because now I wanted to make sure before I got into a relationship that I'm okay being by myself because I hated being by myself for the longest time. I didn't like it. I didn't like myself, so I just wanted to be around other people. I know.
Mom, I hear Michelle saying, like, I don't want to let this person down, and I hear Mariah saying, I didn't like to be alone, and I hear you saying, like, I didn't trust nobody, and, like, I mean, really, mothers, parents will say a lot of things, like, you gotta do this, and if you ever want to do it, then you gotta do. We really want y'all to be happy.
We do.
Matthew, who is behind the camera and the creative director of the podcast, the one question that I asked him when I was getting out of the car was, how's Mariah? Because that's all that matters to me. It's like, we're going to do this and, you know, it's going to be a tough conversation. And, I mean, we're going into the school year. It's September. It's here. When do you start?
The 24th.
And when do you start?
The 22nd.
And you?
24th or 25th, yeah.
Is your anxiety building as it comes closer to time to go back?
We talked about this at lunch, but I haven't thought too much about it. Throughout my life, I just know once you like, oh, this certain thing. Like, you remember when you was younger in middle school and you was getting ready for school and you got your outfit laid out and everything, but you still nervous though. So I just try not to think about it. In the days, it'll eventually be the 25th, and then I'll deal with it once it get there. Not thinking ahead helps me a lot. It's living in the moment. People always ask me, "Oh, what are you doing on the weekend?" I don't know. It's Tuesday. I don't know.
Amen.
I don't know. So
But you
that's-
also have some tools.
Yeah.
You've also used some pretty cool tools that have helped you deal
Yeah.
with anxiety and stress and all of that.
Yeah.
Share some of those.
Basketball?
Basketball, meditation, yoga.
Oh yes,
Look at
meditation.
you.
Yes, meditation. Picked that up like it's magnified over the last 6 months, but I first learned about it about 12 months ago. I'll say that. I practice Islam. My first Ramadan was I was in Russia, and it was 2018, and that's when I learned about that through a friend. But the universe, God has been throwing these different tools at me, and meditation. I just recently got into hot yoga, but it all just keeps me calm. And in that moment when I'm meditating or when I'm doing hot yoga, I'm focusing on hot yoga.
Right.
So it applies to my life, and I'm focusing on one thing at a time. I'm not saying it's easy, but
That's
yeah.
Great.
Huge
Yeah.
key to
That's huge.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Because when you're anxious, your mind is ping, 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 ping,
That's
ping,
right.
ping. But wait, listen, I do hot yoga too. I can't do more than that at one time. I can't think about more than that at one time.
Yeah, it helps. It helps everything. It's funny you say anxiety because I shared this with doctor here, but I suffer with depression, but I never thought about anxiety. But as I speak about different things, it makes sense. But yeah, I battle with it, and meditating, hot yoga, it helps. It helps a lot. But I'm not trusting. That's the piece that I'm trying to get over, I guess. But it's so hard because my upbringing in Chicago, and then just the dynamics moving to Minnesota, and it's feelings that become suppressed throughout the years because you don't face them head on. And you think, oh, that just happened last year. It won't affect me. It will affect you. It will affect you. But yeah.
How are y'all doing with the anxiety? The anticipatory anxiety, as we call it.
I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm really excited for school. I love being a student. I love the content. The material really fascinates me. But I think the part that gives me the most anxiety is dealing with the sort of tension that's built up over the last year. I mean, the first year was like the hardest thing I've done so far. Wow. There were so many tears.
Yes.
Never cried so much in my life. So, but this time I'm a little more prepared for the challenge in terms of the material. It's just the tension in the classroom that really gets to me.
Can I tell you a secret? It's any nursing school anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I do know why. I know why I'm this in. But they just make everything seem so much more tense and life or death and everything else. But if you learn to deal with that now, when you're in that situation and that patient is looking at you with nothing but fear in their eyes, you'll be able to think through it. You'll be able to think through it and be assessing them while you're encouraging them and while you're reassuring them. And you'll be able to ask for what you need and say clearly, you know, what's going on while you're working through that tension. So just embrace it because it doesn't go away after school.
I'm just trying to remember, like, you have to breathe.
Yeah.
You have to breathe. You have to get that oxygen to your brain because I'm really prone to freezing and I'm really prone to overthinking. And I know that happens when, like, if I'm aware, like, if I make myself just be really conscious of my body, I can feel myself holding my breath. I hold my breath and then I start to shake. And then I'm like, what am I doing? And then I'm like, I just have to get out of the room. I just have to get out. So I'm still learning to breathe.
See, it's the opposite of me, like that going crazy, and I just implode and just shut down, and just need to be by myself. Like you said, escape.
Yeah.
I just shut down and just sit with those thoughts in my head continuously. Yeah.
I'm a shutdowner too.
Yeah.
Full on. It's not good.
I'm a freak outer. Like, I need to go for a walk.
After a gap year, do you feel more prepared to go back and be successful in school? Or how did the gap year serve you? Or Or
I
did
think
it?
the gap year helped me because, so like, I have a lot of insecurities academically. I never really felt like that smart. I always felt like kind of like average, a little there. So like, I know that I'm gonna have to put in a little more effort than somebody who's just understands material really easy. So, I mean, I'm prepared. I know that I have to set aside time for myself to like get the work done. I can't just do it the night before. It's not how I work. So, but like I am still very, very anxious about it though. Even though I've been there, I went there for like almost 3 years, but I'm just, it freaks me out. Like being in class, I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel it, but I get like tense in my throat and I can't speak.
All the time.
I cannot, like, if you were to look at me and ask me something, I don't know how to say anything. It's crazy. So I'm trying to work past that part.
We're going to take a quick break from this conversation for community rounds, some tips for back to school, and then we'll be right back with our guests. Hey guys, welcome to Community Rounds, the segment of the podcast where we talk about what's going on in the community and develop a plan of care. Regardless of where you're at in the nation, your kids probably just went or are getting ready to go back to school. One of the things you can do to get them prepared to go back to school is start putting them to bed earlier. About 2 hours before your intended bedtime, try to turn all those screens off and let them wind down. A great way to wind down is with a book. Head over to your city library and maybe get a book about the upcoming school year where the main character is a child their age getting ready to go back to school or having a school experience. You're also going to want to schedule a well child check if you haven't already. Well child checks are done annually to assess the development physically and cognitively of your kids. For younger children, babies and preschoolers, they can be more often than annually. But for school-age kids, middle school, high schoolers, and even your college students, they should be having these wellness visits once a year. You can expect to have a discussion about immunizations, about their physical health, habits like smoking, drinking alcohol, whether or not they're sexually active, and how to prepare for the upcoming developmental phases. Now, I know immunizations is a pretty controversial topic, but I also believe in herd immunity. Herd immunity is when most of the people around you are well, so the person who isn't able to be immunized due to an allergy or a weakened immune system doesn't have to worry about being exposed. When immunization numbers fall off, more people become ill, and it just raises the risk for the people who are not able to immunize of getting sick. We don't want our community members sick, especially our really young people and our elderly. So, whether you agree to immunize or not, expect that conversation to come up. There will also be likely a head-to-toe physical examination, including a vision test and a hearing test. These are really important because when we catch things early, we can connect you to services early, and you can get the help you need for your child. Lastly, if your student is an athlete, they may be asked to do some special things like duck walking or have a more extensive examination of their heart. Don't be upset if they're not cleared to play their sport. It means the clinician found something that needs further workup for your kid to safely participate. And for college students, get acquainted with your health center. Know where it is at, how to access services, what services are available. Parents, this is something you can do as well. You know you're going to get the phone call because your student is really anxious about upcoming finals or a breakup or something else when you just can't be there. It's heartbreaking. It's really hard because all we want to do as parents, right? But this is their transitional period where they're learning how to become independent, self-sufficient adults. know what services are available, and how to direct them to those services. All right, let's get back to the show. Do you guys ever do affirmations? Like say affirmations to yourself, either silently or out loud, or write them? Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I do that.
It's just believing what I'm saying sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I know what I need to hear, but just believing it and believing in myself is the struggle.
I can say through practice of affirmations, the more you say it, the more you believe it. Even if it's negative, if you just say, I'm a terrible person, you eventually believe, like, I'm a terrible person.
If you
But
say he's cheating,
he,
and you just keep saying he's cheating, you're going to eventually believe that he's cheating. No matter what he's doing.
Whether
They
it's
work
true or
both
not.
ways. Yeah.
But if one of my, from a few of them, I am beautiful, I'm a leader, I'm an educator, just a few of them. But each time I say them, I believe it more and more and more. And then the universe reciprocates that energy, and I meet you all beautiful people. So
Look at that.
I'm on the right path. Yeah.
Look at that. We have an old church saying to speak those things that are not as though they are. And, when you grow up, I grew up in church, so I grew up reciting scripture.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think that has kind of fallen off, they don't teach memorization of scripture like they did when I was a kid. But when you say those things over and over and over and over and over and over, oh, they're there. And then you believe them, and you find almost like the voice that telling you something that you have been saying all this time. So I would really encourage, affirmations, whatever it is that you want to believe about yourself, write it down. This is who I want to be. I want to be blank. I want to be this. I want to be that. And then take the want to be and say am. I am this. I am that.
Yeah, I have just throughout my life, I always felt I would be in this setting, but the universe has prepared me for this now.
Which
I always
setting?
knew.
Which setting do you mean?
Speaking about different things, having a camera on me, speaking to the microphone. I just knew I would always be in this setting. I felt it.
Yeah.
But the universe, God, has a beautiful way of not just throwing you in those environments when you aren't ready. And the knowledge I obtained in my past to now has prepared me. And this is
You're already a
great.
teacher.
Yeah.
What would you say to young you? Freshman you.
Enjoy the journey. The reward is in it. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't feel like you have to change everyone's life.
That's a word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's your family, because you feel like, oh, that's my sister, I gotta help her climb out of whatever, or my brother climb out, my mom. They all are on their individual journey. So it's just tell myself that if you don't take care of yourself, then you won't be able to take care of anyone. That's what I would tell my younger self.
Yeah. Your younger self heard you. He's hearing you. Well, we are in the profession. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I practice in cardiology during the day, but I love primary care. And so I want to kind of tie things up with asking what services are available through your campus or in your community that you know about, and how you will access those services when you need them. And if you don't know, that's fine, because I know some people who can help with that. And when I say services, young people very rarely, very, very rarely, is it a physical health condition. So get it out of your mind to think, I got to be sick, I got to have some chronic ailment to go in. No. With the young people, we don't even go there first. And I'll use an example that's more and more common, but young men will say, I can't get an erection. I can't, achieve or maintain an erection. Well, there's diabetes that can cause that. There's vascular disease that can cause that. There's, all kinds of stuff. But young people, it's performance anxiety is the term that we use. It's you're in your head too much. You're overthinking. And a lot of things work that way. So you may not have the language to say, I'm not sleeping good. I wake up at 3:00 every morning for no good reason. and I'm tired. I want to be asleep, but I can't sleep. That's actually a reason to access care. That's actually a reason to go and talk to somebody. Or if you just want to sleep all the time, that's actually a reason to, seek out your health center or your primary care provider or even family, someone in the family, and just let them know kind of what's going on with you. Mm-hmm. Do you all know how to access care, where it is? And you're shaking your head no, and you're the veteran.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I rely on myself for a lot. I think going to Arizona at 18, I felt like I couldn't call back home because I was the first generation, so I couldn't show my weakness. I couldn't show. I had to let my family know that I'm strong enough to maintain this on my own, and you won't hear from me. But I guess myself, I am my own service, but I know that's not healthy. I've matured and I understand that that's not healthy and it hasn't worked. So.
Do you know what services are available to you on campus?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think that's very uncommon.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what do you do if you have a mental health or physical health concern?
I mean, I don't really struggle in that way just because I've lived here for a long time, so I kind of know where everything is. And, because of you as a mom.
See, I never outed you this whole time. I didn't say you were my child.
They can see.
She is definitely my twin.
But that's part of why it's hard to sometimes go in, because I've, the image of my parents and, the family, so I just kind of don't want to be, let anyone know that something's wrong, in fear of people finding out that something's wrong and it getting back. Because even when I went to sign up for my classes at Whatcom, they're just like, "Oh my gosh, we love your mom. We're so happy to have you." And it's like, cool. I just want to sign up for classes
and maybe be left alone, huh? Because mom's an extrovert, big time.
You are, and
you
people
are not.
think expect that out of me, and I'm like.
Don't talk to me. Do you know how to access service, Michelle?
I feel like it wouldn't be difficult to find out. I just haven't done it yet. I haven't accessed the services on campus. I do have a primary care provider, but unfortunately she is in Oak Harbor.
Yeah.
So I don't often get to see her.
Right.
It could be just months at a time that I know I have some kind of concern, and I either tell myself it'll pass or it's not a big deal. Sometimes I schedule an appointment and then go, but I literally don't feel well enough to drive to Oak Harbor. I'm having a terrible, terrible week, a terrible day, a terrible month, and then I just cancel the appointment just because I don't. Self-care in that moment is not making the drive.
The heads are nodding. Wow. I'm going to turn
Did you know?
Dr. Ledbetter over here.
This is what we talk about, is how to sort of get the word out. So every college campus has a counseling center. Almost every college campus has a counseling center. So some community colleges have access to resources and partnerships. They all have, just about all of them have counseling centers that provide sort of groups and baseline health in terms of support for depression and anxiety. They also see students with, more advanced, mental issues. But they also all have student health centers, right? And so student health centers do deal with everything from making sure you're immunized to treating you for all kinds of physical ailments. And then the partnerships extend beyond that. So if you need psychotropic drugs or psychoactive drugs, you may get that at your health center, but you also...
I didn't know all that.
Yeah.
I know where my health center is, but I didn't know it had...
Oh, absolutely.
That, yeah.
We have licensed psychiatrists. We have nurse practitioners, psychiatric nurse practitioners, then all of the baseline sort of providers, medical providers. In the counseling center, there are mental health counselors at the master's level and psychologists at the PhD level. So there is a whole range of providers that are out there, just available to you, free. as a part of your student health fee. And then there's prevention services. So those are the group of people on campus that do things like prevention, anything related to prevention. So self-care. They may do things like sponsor a meditation group or give you tools. We call it step care. So first level is prevention services, how to protect yourself, safe sex, sexual reproductive health, and all of those other things. And then the next level might be either physical health or emotional health.
And can
And so-
I interject from behind the camera back
Yeah,
here?
sure.
The sexual health thing is usually how I meet a lot of the
That's
college
right.
students.
That's right.
And we talk, that's such a small part of what we talk about in our visits because they didn't know that they could come about their sleep, that they could come about their
That's
eating
right.
habits.
Yes, I
They
agree.
suddenly
I agree.
don't have an appetite or suddenly want to eat
That's
everything
right.
inside, or they used to enjoy, hanging with their friends or doing things with their family, and suddenly, they just don't want to do that stuff anymore. So we end up talking about everything else, but that's usually
That's
how I
right.
meet the college
Wow.
students is because they're itching. They're itching and dirty.
That's right.
And we take care of that too. And you will get some loving counsel as well,
That's right.
with that. Yeah. Yeah.
So now that you know, are you more likely to access the services or?
I'm more likely to look into it.
Okay, we'll take it. We'll take that.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to look into it, but that human aspect we talk about.
That's
But
huge.
when you meet someone and you connect with them, then you're whatever your label may be. Oh, now I can share it with you because I know you at the personable level.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll definitely look into it.
Good.
That's awesome. Did y'all grow up going to doctors and nurses? Did your
No.
Yeah.
parents? I see one no, and I see some nod.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little
Yeah.
bit. And did you connect with them?
No, it was mainly about health, like shots and
Yeah.
things of that nature. Nothing, no
Did you
counseling or
connect,
anything.
Raya?
Like, about feelings?
Yeah.
Oh,
Feelings. Did
no.
you? No, not at all. Okay. Okay. So what would you want to tell? Just kind of like what you were saying to Dr. Sis about the administrators. What would you want the healthcare providers to know, or to be cognizant of prior to you coming into their space, which is your space too?
Just you're a healthcare provider, correct? But a lot of times we as people perform roles. If you work at McDonald's, you're behind the cash register. Your hello, how you doing won't be as natural as if I was to say it to Michelle. So
Right. Right.
just understand that this is a human, this is a person, and it's that. It's a human, it's a person, human interaction, and it should be organic as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Ladies, anything you want to say to the healthcare providers that you may seek out and find, or that you're thinking about, Michelle?
I think the biggest thing would be, willingness to listen and don't make assumptions. I feel like sometimes, more recently, maybe not so much growing up, but in more recent times, when I go to see a provider, there's a lot of loaded questions, I would say, or a lot of assumptions about my lifestyle or my upbringing or my hobbies, and just be open minded. Don't assume anything.
Yeah.
You can ask if it's relevant, but don't assume anything.
You're going to be a wonderful nurse.
I hope
you
so.
are.
Just wonderful.
I gotta survive another year.
The second year is not as bad as the first year.
Yeah.
And, no, you'll be fantastic. And we'll talk. We'll exchange information. I'm around.
Yeah.
And I went through it recently. On 10 years in nursing. So, not that long ago. You can do it. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you real quick one thing that happened in one of my nursing classes that almost took me out. And when you listen to how small of a thing this was, in comparison to my life now, which I absolutely adore, we had a pretty diverse class. And the whole globe was covered. Languages, continents, all of that. And I was the extrovert, so we had fancy Fridays and you know, we would all dress up, because, you know, you wear scrubs all the time, so it was like, oh, fancy Friday. We was coming through in our heels, faces beat, just because, right? And I said, we should do a potluck, and everybody rep your culture for the potluck. How cool would that be? We had Sinhalese kids, we had, you know, East Indian, Hispanic, Eastern European, American, African, I mean, everybody's there. Russian. They said, the teacher of my class, my instructor said, well, that'll be easy for you. You can just go to Hagen's and get some fried chicken.
No.
If that weren't bad enough, my entire class erupted into laughter. So I can tell you, as far as feeling small and feeling like you don't belong and feeling like, who are my, like, who's my people up in here? Because all y'all are laughing at something that was really stupid, actually, you know? But hang in there, stay with it, we'll exchange information. We're here, we're out here. Every time you see somebody who looks like you, higher up, working in the community, we've been there and done that. And everybody's not going to act like it. Some people are going to turn their nose up at you. Let them. But some of us absolutely adore you and know how brave you're being and know how much this means to you personally and how much it means to your extended family, everyone connected to you. And we're here. And we'll make time. We'll make time. I know I can say that 100%. Y'all have my number, and I know other people, too, that have been there and done all of that. We have a good time, don't we?
Right, that's right.
A human good time.
That's right.
We're not sitting up just talking, you know, facts and number crunching, and well, what's your plan, and where are you on your plan? No, we're talking about life. You know, so stick with it and reach out. You know, it's great if you can meditate and be by yourself and be comfortable like that, but life's not meant for us to go through individually. You know, we need each other, and we're here. And I want to thank all of you so much. Listeners, I put this grandiose plan together, and I was the one who was how many hours late? I got stuck at the hospital. It's a call weekend for me, and it was busy there, but I'm actually really glad at how it turned out. I think everything happens a certain way for a reason, and I'm glad you all got to connect and talk.
It was really good.
We'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
We'll have to check in once the school year is rolling and everybody's getting their footing. We'll have to get together again. Thank you so much for sharing such personal
Thank you.
stories. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Instagram Live, that's all we have for you. You can tune into the podcast now on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Podbean. My manager told me last week, he says, okay, YouTube is the second most searched engine next to Google, so we got to get you on YouTube. Do you know that it was already there? Listen, when I tell y'all I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just stepping out, trying to provide something that I wish was there for me. And just like you said, God is just going before me and paving the way, making it easy. But I could not do it without you guys and without listeners. So thank you, everybody who tuned in, who watched, who listened. And we'll be back next week. Take good care. Thank you for listening to the Purple Stethoscope. I'm your host, Devin Nixon, family nurse practitioner. You can find me on social media at DtheNP. That's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now Patreon. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and share this episode, and then head over to Patreon to see how you can further support this work.